Welcome back to Guria Top Thinking. Okay, let's talk about it. Have you ever been in a thing with someone where it's, definitely more than a friendship, but it's not quite a relationship? Today, we are diving deep into that confusing, frustrating world of the situationship to really unpack the psychology of why leaving a connection so undefined can actually truly hurt.
I think this Reddit user just absolutely nails it right out of the gate. This is such a raw, honest take that gets right to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? You're getting some of the good stuff, the fun, the connection, but that core foundation of actual effort and commitment, it's just not there.
So, let's get a little more specific. What exactly is this modern dating dilemma, and how in the world do you know if you're actually in one? At its core, a situationship lives and breathes in that gray area. It's a space between being just friends and being in a full-blown romance. You're connected, for sure, maybe emotionally, maybe physically, but the whole thing is just undefined. And that lack of clear lines in the sand, that's its number one feature. So if you're nodding along to this list, things like contact that's all over the place, not meeting their friends, or just feeling like you're stuck in neutral, yeah, you might be in a situationship. But here's the real question we're digging into today. Why does this ambiguity feel so draining? Why is it so taxing on our mental health?
Well, this is where things get super interesting. It turns out that our brains are just not wired for this kind of long-term uncertainty. We're actually built to seek clarity, and when we don't get it, our minds can kick into some serious overdrive trying to figure it all out.
And that feeling, it's so much more than just being a little frustrated. There is a really powerful psychological principle at work here that explains that deep, nagging discomfort you feel when you're stuck in relationship limbo.
And here it is. It's called cognitive dissonance. The theory, from social psychologist Leon Festinger, is actually pretty simple. Our brains crave consistency. They hate it when our actions don't line up with our deep-seated beliefs. And that internal clash, it creates real anxiety and stress.
This right here is the perfect picture of that internal tug-of-war. On one side, you have this core belief, I am worthy of a clear, committed relationship. But on the other side, your actions, staying in this undefined situation, are screaming the exact opposite. That's cognitive dissonance in a nutshell. So, to deal with that awful feeling, what do? We start rationalizing. We make excuses for their behavior. Or we fall into what's called the sunk cost fallacy. That feeling that we've already put in so much time and energy, we can't possibly leave now. But all these justifications do is pull us further and further away from our own needs. Okay, so that explains what's happening in the moment. But why are some of us more likely to put up with this dissonance in the first place? Well, the answer often goes way, way back to our psychological blueprint, our attachment style, which started forming when we were very young. This is where attachment theory comes into play. The big idea here is that our very first relationships, usually with our parents, create these mental working models. Think of them like a subconscious rule book that tells us what to expect from intimacy and how worthy of love we are in all our future relationships. Now, as you can see from this table, our style really shapes how we handle closeness. For example, if you have a more avoidant style, a situationship might actually feel pretty comfortable. It's a way to have a connection without all the pressure of commitment. But on the flip side, if you have a more anxious style, you might tolerate a situationship, just hoping and praying that it'll finally turn into the real thing.
An undefined beginning, well, it almost always leads to an undefined ending. And that creates a very unique, very difficult kind of emotional pain.
Instead of a clear we need to talk moment, situationships tend to just fizzle out. The communication fades, the plans stop. This lack of a real ending, this lack of closure, creates a psychological phenomenon that is just incredibly tough to get through. The term for this is ambiguous loss. Unlike a clean break, the person is still out there, living their life. And this can trap you in this painful cycle of confusion, what ifs, and even hope, which makes it almost impossible for the healing process to even begin. Wow, this quote from psychotherapist Roger Cahog just captures that devastating feeling so perfectly. It's this sense of being totally erased without any explanation. You're left grieving not just the connection you lost, but your own significance to that person.
Okay, so that's all pretty heavy, I know. But here is the good news. You are not powerless in this situation. So, how do we get out of this maze of confusion? It's not about waiting for them to give you clarity. It's about learning how to create it for yourself.
These strategies are all about reclaiming your power. It starts by looking inward and getting really honest with yourself.
It's about learning to sit with that uncomfortable feeling for a minute instead of trying to immediately fix it. And if and when it feels safe, it's about opening up a conversation, not necessarily to get a label, but just to get some honesty.
Ultimately, understanding the psychology behind all of this isn't about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about arming yourself with the knowledge to build healthier, happier connections. And it leaves us with this final, really important question to think about. In our search for connection, what are we sometimes sacrificing just for the temporary comfort of ambiguity? Let us know your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd really love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us on Guria Top Thinking. If you found this explainer valuable, you know the drill. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the human mind.